Here visually.
Under glasses.
Yeah, they're in the other room. I'm gonna run in while
Yeah.
people are coming up.
Shouldn't anyone get you a box at Costco?
Like Costco.
Do we want to do the airport tomorrow or is that next week, Tuesday?
We got time to work.
You can work minutes.
Yep.
If changes that are yesterday.
Are we live yet, Jeannie?
Yes,
Oh, we are. Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. The Senate Transportation Committee. Hope we didn't delay you too badly. We're running a little behind this morning. We are going to continue our discussion on bike safety, education, and outreach. And it's something that this committee's been a little interested in, is the bike safety program of what we have, what we offer, because we are certainly in support of bikes, and now with electric bike on the scene. And I read the other day, I think Montpelier or someone's getting an electric bike that goes 50 miles an hour. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's what I heard. So there is going to be more electric bikes, which is the good news, and I'm not discouraging it. On the other hand, I, along with others, have been concerned about the safety of allowing them on the highways and without any training or safety courses. And so it's just a thought that came to me and others this year that maybe we should be addressing something to do with bike safety. We certainly want to encourage bikes, but also they have the same rights on the highway as automobiles, and we want to make sure that we don't have any disasters in the future, especially with more electric bikes being on the road, which adds another, they can go 30, 35 miles an hour. And, so that's the general discussion. So we've got 4 or 5 of you folks this morning. Who would like to lead off? Don't all jump up.
Good morning, Senator.
Morning.
I think I'll jump in.
Okay, good.
If that's all right.
John, okay.
Okay, so for the record, John Kaplan, I work for Vtrans and I'm the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. And I've been with Vtrans for quite some time in the bike and ped program. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys about this topic, and hopefully, Jeannie, I should be able to share my screen, correct? Because I have just a few slides, because I want to just talk about, and I understand.
co-host, so you should be able to share.
Okay. I know that the focus of the discussion has been on e-bikes, but since they are, they function more or less like a regular bike, and are treated that way in statute for the most part currently. So I want to just go over like what we are doing in terms of bicycle safety, education, and outreach presently. So I just have a few slides and then of course open to questions. So let me see if I can do this.
And interrupt real quick, Jeannie, did you have turn transcription on intentionally or do you want that off?
I'm impaired, so I like to have the transcription.
Understood.
Okay, so hopefully you are seeing my full size slides.
Yep, I got it. Yep.
Okay, great. So the first thing I want to just mention is maybe you've heard about this. This is a federal highway sort of approach to safety overall that they call the safe systems approach. It's somewhat new kind of philosophy, I guess, that they are emphasizing. And the main sort of changes, I guess, from the past that they are using with this approach is that they're kind of acknowledging that mistakes will happen out on the roads. Like you can see on, I don't know if you can see on the outside of the circle, but kind of one of the principles is that humans will make mistakes. And so basically this approach is to try to have roads that acknowledge that and minimize the consequences when those mistakes happen. So there's 3 things that I highlighted here that I think are important. So safe speeds. So speed has a big impact on safety. Safe roads, that has to do with design. And then safe road users, which has to do with, you know, operator behavior, as well as things like equipment, like, you know, seat belts and so forth. So I just want to start with that as kind of a general approach. So what makes bicycling safe? There's been a lot of, you know, study of this, and, you know, kind of in order of importance, I think, is first is having quality infrastructure. So, you know, that means having space on the road for bikes, clear signs, pavement markings, and so forth. And then again, relative to speed, just doing things with design that keep the speeds of vehicles slower where they're interacting with bicycles. And we're talking about bicycles, but it kind of applies to pedestrians as well. Then, of course, there's education of all road users. That is important, as well as enforcement. Those are both important pieces with traffic safety overall. But the infrastructure is really the thing that matters the most. And if you look at like safety data from countries that have very low numbers of like bicycle and pedestrian crashes and serious injuries, it has to do primarily with infrastructure.
John, let me just start a little differently. I think the concern that is now is that you can go out and buy an electric bike at 10 years old, or 11 years old, or whatever, and you can ride that bike right with traffic without any kind of training, without any kind of mandates about what you wear or what the bike has. And I know certainly we're building our highways with shoulders anywhere we possibly can. That's I can tell you that's the truth there. And vehicles are an important role, but when I see a bicycle coming down Williston Road with traffic, without any kind of any kind of course to take, if you drive a car at 16, you have to take a course to get your license. But yet bicycles, not that I'm mandating anything, I'm just trying to figure out why are we allowing bicycles to use the highway with traffic without any sort of training. You can walk into Walmart or Costco and buy a bike, any age, and get out on the roadway and drive it or ride it from here to Montpelier to Burlington. So that was the issue we're talking about. But we certainly are working very diligently on bike paths and highways. Every one of our projects that go out, as you know, with the AOT, we make sure that if there's a space for a bike path, we put it in our budget. We do an excellent job. Communities all over the state are doing a good job. So that's what I like to focus on, is why are we not talking about safety programs or safety courses or safety mandates before they leave with an electric bike or a bike in general, because that's the question. Thank you.
Yep. And totally understand. So yeah, I don't have too many slides, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time with this. But I'll just run through the rest of these, and then I think, you know, that's a great question. I mean, I'll just say quickly, like, I don't believe that, you know, Vtrans, under the current, you know, sort of authority we have, I suppose, could mandate that.
Oh, I understand. I understand. I'm just bringing it up for discussion because we have other people on the screen also.
I want to take.
Go right ahead.
And then, in fairness to what the chair's bringing up, I mean, in the budget right here, we have $19.8 million that we've got for bike and pedestrian facilities, and so we're investing that type of money. And are we kind of putting the cart before the horse before we actually do get a training safety program out there? It's a lot of money to spend, and just to let these kids run off into traffic. And I think the whole committee feels some kind of responsibility that we're willing to spend this type of money without proper training.
Yeah, I mean, that is a fair question for sure. So,
Yep, go ahead.
Just to respond to your inquiries, Senator Ingles, the bicycle and pedestrian line item in the budget is for sidewalks, it's for bike paths, it's for creating new bike ped facilities on highways, the thing you were most concerned about. So there's a sort of wide range of efforts that that are compiled in that line item. And so those are all like construction projects that are gonna go out to bid this coming year. There may be, John can let us know if in the bike ped line, I think we have the new bike ped connections program the agency's trying to do to make sure if we have a project coming through that we are working with the town if they have anything on their docket. So there's money for that is in that line item as well. And John, is there any other education outreach or anything in that line item?
So there is some funding in there that is currently going to Locomotion as part of a grant to support their work on the Safe Routes to School program. So some of that funding does show up in that bike and ped overall figure. And I'm trying to think what else might
receive.
John can probably tell you.
How much does Locomotion receive?
So their current grant total for Safe Routes to School was $300,000 over, I forget the exact time frame of that, Mary, 3 years? Mary Catherine? Okay. So that was basically the last of our Safe Routes to School funding that the state.
We'll hear from them to see what that covers. I want to know what that $300,000 covers. Because okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Good questions. And thank you, Michelle, for chiming in on the line item. So just a few resources that are currently out there now. We have this Safe Streets webpage, which has quite a few safety resources that anyone can take advantage of. We have a number of safety publications that the agency has had out there. These are all available online, but people can ask for hard copies of these as well. We do a fair amount of outreach in terms of, Facebook messages, using all the sort of social media avenues to get safety messages out. And also in partnership with the Vermont Highway Safety Alliance and the Department of Health. They are both partners to help get the sort of message out about safe operation on the roads. I knew I had a slide about Locomotion. So not all of this is directly related to their Safe Routes to School work because they get other funding. And I think I'll let the folks from Locomotion can chime in with more detail on this. But they do have their Bike Smart on-bike training, which we have helped fund in the past. So they get to, over 50 schools and organizations with that training. Safe Routes to School, a little over 30 schools. They have everyday bike training. That's more for like at a workplace if people want to learn about safe bike commuting. And then they just do a fair amount of overall outreach and social media on bike and pedestrian safety or sharing the road safely. So all of that adds up to quite a few people who are touched by that. Bike Smart, 10,000 students a year, Safe Routes to School, 8 to 10,000 community members, the everyday bicycling training, 400 people a year. So a lot of people are getting reached by their education. The Department of Health was funded for this Watch for Me program that developed a lot of resources that are out there for communities to use. And that has also reached a large number of people. And I think Allison LaFlamme from our Office of Highway Safety has more detail on this if you are interested.
Sure. Thank you. Allison LaFlamme, Administrator of the State Highway Safety Office. This program uses data analysis mapping to identify high-risk zones, pedestrian safety assessment, road safety audits, and they work with communities. They're a strong partnership with Mary Catherine and her team at Local Motion. They have started to be able to go out again in person, but a lot of their work they were able to still do online over the last year. They've reported out that they've done events at things like Lake Monsters games and for a community reach out. And under Safe Kids Vermont, they've met with regional planning commissions on roadway safety. So we work with them. I am not the programmatic expert, but we fund this particular project at $180,939. And that includes a mature driver program as well, looped into that.
Thank you, Allison. Just a couple more things. So we do have, Vtrans has a YouTube channel, and we, excuse me, and we're trying to use that to provide some education. Like when we started using the green pavement markings, there was some confusion about that. Excuse me. And so we have a video out there that explains that. And we're working on wrapping up a video that talks about pedestrian safety at signalized intersections. So, you know, this I've talked about before a little bit, but we do use the kind of complete streets approach as far as our design practices, looking at all the different modes of transportation. There's lots of design resources out there to do that. And I believe that's my last slide.
Okay. Who's next? Locomotion, or who wants to be next? We've got the Highway Safety Program, Locomotion. Mary?
Yeah, I can give a quick introduction for Locomotion, then maybe Mary Catherine wants to say something as well. Jonathan Weber, I'm the Complete Streets Program Manager here at Locomotion, so I do a lot of direct work with communities to help them become safer for walking and biking. You know, I presented to you a few weeks back talking about the safe systems approach that John Kaplan mentioned in his presentation. That is the Federal Highway Administration's approach that is backed up in data about, you know, how we actually make our roads safer for all users, people walking, biking, and driving. The focus of it is engineering and building out infrastructure, because that is the approach that has been effective and is backed up in data in multiple places around the world. So that's really what we promote and what we support, but we also do a lot of education in schools and for adults as well. And Mary Catherine, can you talk about that?
All right. First, hello, everybody. As Senator Mazza, I'm a constituent of yours. Actually, I live in Isle of Mont, and actually I just got elected to the select board, so I understand the complexities of trying to make things work for folks. It's a big job. So just some information about the Safe Routes to School program. This is actually money left over from quite a few years ago. The program was changed in 2015. This is money left over from pre-2015 dollars. I believe I have the date right. So Safe Routes to School has been something that has gone on for a decade or so. We had a big pause between 2015 until fairly recently, when funding resources just and priorities shifted. We, at one point, Safe Routes to School had 100 schools participating, but that dwindled, and now we're rebuilding our school list and engagement. So for some good numbers on lifetime totals for Safe Routes to School, for Bike Smart. We've been doing this program for over a decade as well, and we have served around 70,000 children in that period, and over 400,000 on-bike training hours. What has happened is the program has grown over the years. So we started in 2012 or 2011 with one trailer, and then we got a second trailer in 2014, and somewhere around 2017 we got 2 more trailers. So now we have 4, and that has increased our capacity enormously. We received the Safestreets to School funding right when COVID started. So things were a bit tricky because schools were very busy with the new, they were fully quarantined for most of that first year. So we have actually really made some great traction around educating kids and engaging them in safe and active and healthy lifestyles on in our work for our school programming. So we have actually worked with, in the lifetime of this program, over 180 schools and camps, and we've been in over 120 towns in Vermont, in all 14 counties.
Well, let me, I think I'm not getting my point across. What happens, tell me if this is correct or not correct. If I'm a 10-year-old or 11, doesn't make a difference, 10, 11, 12, and I go out and buy an electric bike this afternoon, can I ride that bike without, if I didn't take any class at school about this, can I take that bike and ride it to Montpelier? And I can be in traffic without any kind of training or any kind of restrictions of what I wear, what the bike has on it. So why am I missing that point? I know you're doing a good job in schools, but what if the child or even an adults don't, you can't touch a car unless you have training and pass a test. But yet we're allowing more and more bikes, which is great, onto our highways, which have the same right as an automobile, as I understand it. I see it all the time. I go to the mall in South Burlington, and there's bikes right in traffic, but yet they didn't have to take a test. They didn't have to pass anything. They didn't have to take a safety test, only if they want to. So how are we going to the future? What are we going to do with people who are out in traffic? Now, you don't have to ride the shoulder all the way, do you? If I was to ride here in Montpelier or Burlington, I could ride with traffic. Is that correct?
John, do you want to talk to that, Mark? I can talk.
What would happen if I'm entitled to that highway?
Right. I mean, if I can offer one answer to that, I mean, technically that is true. That scenario could happen. I am not aware of any. So generally, like, our crash numbers in Vermont involving bicyclists are actually very low. I have not heard from law enforcement or our governor's highway safe or Office of Highway Safety or Department of Health. I have not heard any like statistics indicating that is a current problem or high priority.
Yeah, they're just coming out with electric bikes now. Well, right. This is the big difference. Plus, they're getting the incentives. Yeah. There's a bill to give a $20 incentive to buy an electric bike. So yeah. I still think we're not keeping up with the times here. I'm missing something because we have to wait for something bad to happen before we do something.
No, I mean, and it looks like John has something to add, but just one last thought on that. I mean, the reason that I kind of put together the set of slides that I did, and I'm glad Mary Catherine had some additional numbers on the programs they've been providing, is, you know, whether it's an e-bike or a regular bike, there's a lot of education that's happening. People who are, I don't know, the way an e-bike operates is essentially the same as a regular bike, except that you have the electric assist.
Plus 35 miles an hour in traffic.
And a range of however far. I mean, a lot farther range than a child pedaling a bike, getting tired and turning around coming home. I mean, you're going further.
Senator Chittenden?
We don't let kids do a lot of things, like go see R-rated movies, or I can't let a kid go to a pool at a hotel without an adult watching and supervising. It just seems like we are inviting catastrophe by having e-bikes enter the marketplace where these 12 to 16-year-olds or even 10 or 11-year-olds are going to test the limits. They're going to go really far distances on roads that might not necessarily be as nearly bike friendly without any type of state standard or regulation or caution. And that's where I just, as a senator, seeing my two daughters wanting e-bikes to go all over God's creation, I want to apply some parameters, some state. Am I completely off on wanting to see some rules from a state level for younger people on our roadways with e-bikes and bikes?
And we did have some accidents involving two youths with sometime earlier. I can't remember the exact thing, but it wasn't good.
John, go right ahead. Sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, I guess it's John Copans. I'm the new executive director at the Old Spokes Home here in Burlington. And at some point, I'd love to sort of introduce you to the work we do here at the Old Spokes Home, but I'll get right into the conversation here. My question back to you seems to me that a child on a bike is, under your framing, the moment they leave their driveway, they are sort of in the public space at that point. Whether that's on an electric bike or just a conventional bike, our experience, and I think this is not limited to the old north end of Burlington, this is true in pretty much any community around Vermont, is kids like bikes. Kids have been riding bikes for decades. I mean, think about any depiction you see of the 1950s and kids in the 1950s. They were delivering papers by bicycle. So kids have been riding bikes, and kids have been riding bikes in public spaces for a long time now. We all, I would say, we certainly think about their safety. In particular, we equip them with helmets because, frankly, sometimes with kids and bikes, the issue is less about interactions with cars and more about them just being kids and like tipping over, those kinds of things. Like that's really sort of just comfort on a bicycle, and the ability to navigate obstacles is probably the most fundamental safety issue. And so I think we as people who work with children and bikes are trying to meet you all and understand where, because again, safety for a child on a bike is, to our mind, it's not so different if that child is moving at 7 miles per hour on the shoulder on the bicycle versus moving a little bit quicker on an electric bike. Yeah, maybe their range goes
35 miles an hour, you're letting this kid go on that traffic. 35 miles an hour. That's not a concern to you?
Well, I will
help me understand this.
Well, to zoom out a little bit, here's there are so many benefits to kids being on bicycles.
I'm not disputing that. I'm not
right. Well, there are health benefits, there are recreational benefits, there are benefits. Think about that moment when that kid gets that bicycle for the first time, and all of a sudden their realm of movement expands beyond their home. I remember it vividly when all of a sudden I was cruising around the neighborhood, and then like as a teenager, I rode my bike to see my girlfriend all the way down Route 5 from Brattleboro to Putney, and just had a totally different sense of self. I cruised on that shoulder on Route 5, whether my bike was electric or not. I was certainly a vulnerable user on a roadway in that circumstance. I would just encourage you to think, when you go by any elementary school in Vermont, what you often see is, especially in the spring and fall time, you see bike racks that are jammed full of kids' bikes. And my sort of encouragement is to see that as a sign of success. That is what we want, is for our kids to get onto bikes and to be riding in their communities because of the health benefits, because of the climate benefits of that, safe routes to school. And I think what we know is kids have been riding bikes in their neighborhoods for decades. what we don't generally see is an epidemic of vehicle to children safety issues. I guess we're just trying to I'm trying to wrap my head around sort of where I think you all see sort of the potential for kids and e-bikes as a.
Yes.
I'll tell you where we're going with it. We're giving you every opportunity to step in and take ownership of this, or we're going to take ownership of it. I can tell you that's where it's going to go. And so we're asking you to take us serious as far as what we're asking, or we're gonna act on it. And then we're hoping that we can be in partnership with this all the way through. And because as of right now, sir, I really just don't think you're taking it serious. I really don't. I'm not trying to be out there and to get under your skin, but you're going to force us to be the writers of all these rules and regulations, and we're asking for a partnership to come back to us and help us.
And I don't mean, don't get my, look, don't let my tone, we day in and day out in our work here, work with children. We work with children in poverty who are getting on bicycles, and we really see that as success and as opportunity and a really healthy habit for these kids. Too many kids are spending too much time indoors. And so for us, our mission in our work is to elevate and create safe spaces for those children to get onto bicycles.
Oh, you got a comment?
Yes, Senator Mazza. I think this is a very complex issue, as has been stated by everyone. It's a very emotional issue, which is apparent from the discussions about it throughout the session. I think it's an issue that we can't solve by ourselves, and you can't solve by yourselves, perhaps. Like Senator Ingalls was saying, we need to come together on this. But it's the magnitude of the policy decision-making around a topic like this is not something we're going to be able to just go off on our own and make a policy about and come back to you with it next year. This would require some sort of committee, summer study committee, that would involve legislators and, people from safety, education, parents. I mean, this has really huge implications if we are going to head in a direction of limiting bicycle use by youth. I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be done, but I'm just saying it's a very complex issue.
So I'm not opposed to study committees. I hear that they can do a lot of good things. I'll just say this, I see e-bikes as a different animal. Going 7 miles an hour versus 22 miles an hour is a lot different, especially with kids. And I would be open to a study committee because I'd love to know what Europe's doing on this front. And it seems to make sense that maybe if we just pass a state law that those under 16 can't be using our roadways with e-bikes or regular bikes without a parent's parental supervision, at bare minimum, that's just a statement. Then you can enforce it. But we have heard presentation about tragedies that have occurred over the last 2 or 3 years with kids on our highways and bicycles. So I am motivated to move something forward on this because I think it's something serious that's going to get worse with e-bikes. I'll just leave it there.
Okay, next, yes, Mary.
Thank you. So a couple of pieces of information. First of all, we would love to expand our education program. I've been talking for years about creating a sort of universal curriculum for schools, and really working with schools to develop their own bike smart capacity on their own. Because, with 4 trailers, there's only so much I can serve. And we have maxed out our resources on this. It's we need to expand our capacity in a new way. And I'm really excited about the possibilities for making something like that work in partnership with you. And I also want to caution you about legislation keeping kids off road. Obesity, health epidemics, we've got a real problem, and it's worse in rural areas where the infrastructure is worse. Kids don't bike, people don't bike, people don't walk. From a BSU survey, Behavioral Safety Unit survey, 70% 53.4% of people are concerned about their personal safety when walking in active traffic. 84% are concerned with it while biking. So, and you know, we were talking about these horrible tragedies with kids. When I first started working at Locomotion, there was that awful tragedy in South Burlington where a little girl was struck and killed on the sidewalk by a person driving a car, and her parents were with her. So, you know, the common denominator in all of this, of course, is not the kids or where they are or who they're with. It's the motor vehicles. And we just need to come up with a better solution for everyone to be safe. And if we're talking about safety, if you look at the numbers, kids are more likely to die inside a motor vehicle than they are outside of it. So cars.
Oh, I hear you. I think we all hear you. I do think we're underestimating what's going to happen in the future of electric bikes, of how they're going to be popular. And now it's a different ballgame than a regular bike. And maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am, but when we're promoting electric bikes with incentives, and we would encourage it, you can get out on that highway and do 35, 40 miles an hour without any training at all. That I haven't heard an answer to that yet. And if it's going to take a joint ownership of this legislation or whatever, fine. We're not experts in that field at all. We'll admit that first, but you folks are all experts in biking. And I'm just surprised that you're not coming to some agreement of what you want to happen in the future. Yes, go ahead, Jonathan.
Yeah, I just want to clarify on e-bikes. I've heard 35, I heard 50 thrown out earlier. Those speeds are way above the actual regulated speeds of an e-bike under Vermont law. The maximum speed for a legal e-bike under Vermont law is 28 miles an hour. People under 16 are not allowed to ride that class of e-bike. The only e-bikes that people under 16 can ride have a maximum speed of 20 miles an hour, which is a speed that kids can certainly reach on a traditional bicycle. So I just wanted to dispel that misconception there. There are no legal e-bikes that go faster than 28 miles an hour.
They just not taking ownership of it. They're just not. So I just,
Okay.
We go all day.
yeah, we can go all day.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much today for coming in, and we'll continue our discussion and hope we come up with some solutions. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the chance to come.
Okay. See you later. Thanks. Okay, Jeannie, you can take us on live, please.
Just banning